Embarrassing. Indiana collapses on the road at Columbus, and they fall in a top 5 matchup to the Ohio State Buckeyes.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. It is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen or your first watch every single day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. This is a bonus reaction episode for you over the weekend. Thank you to those on audio. Thank you to those on video. And I'm not happy. I'm disappointed. And Indiana should kind of be embarrassed by how we performed on the road at Ohio State. Final score 38-15, and we do a full reaction for you here on Locked On Hoosiers. Where do the Hoosiers go from here? We'll have that for you. Plus, what does this mean for the college football playoff? But in simple terms, Indiana collapsed on the road at Ohio State. And look, there's going to be a lot of takes here. There's going to be a lot of opinions on this, and there's going to be a lot of people who didn't even watch the game who are going to say that Indiana does not deserve to be a part of the college football playoff or didn't even belong on the field with Ohio State. I just don't believe that. That's not what I saw on this game or in this game on Saturday afternoon. Final score 38-15. First of all, Ryan Day's a classless act. That was, unacceptable to do that at the end. I want to get that out of the way. Kurt Cignetti had been done. He said the game was over, didn't call timeouts. Yeah, they scored and went for 2 in the onside kick, but they were down. Then they were saying, okay, we're done. And Trevyon Henderson, the college athlete, has more respect and dignity than the grown man of a head coach in Ryan Day at Ohio State. So, you know what? Good for you. You got your resume. You made yourself look better in the eyes of the committee who've been on your side regardless anyway. So, good job to you, Ryan Day. But this was about Indiana. The Hoosiers beat the Hoosiers. Yeah, for those of you on video, you read it right on the overlay. The Hoosiers beat the Hoosiers. Indiana loses this game 17-15. Realistically, offensively, in normal game situations, take out the 2 special teams blunders, take out the embarrassing act by Ryan Day at the end of the game, and Indiana loses 17-15. And you could say 17-14 if you take away a 2-point conversion that you probably wouldn't have gone for in normal circumstances. Sure, I get it. But Indiana looked really, really good to start the game. You get a 3-and-out on defense. You go the length of the field and score a touchdown. You're up 7-0, and everything is going our way. Then Ohio State ramped it up on defense. For whatever reason, they only rushed 4 on that first drive against the Hoosiers, and Indiana took advantage of it, running the ball, throwing a little bit, and went right down the field. Then they started to come after Kurtis Rourke a little bit, who, give credit to the offensive line this season, they've done a fairly good job of protecting him. And sure, there have been injuries, there's been issues, there's been some mixing around on that front, but they've done a good job at protecting their Heisman candidate quarterback, who has made the throws when he's had to have them, and he's had the time to make the throws when he had to have them. But give a ton of credit to the Ohio State defensive front. They let you know about it on the broadcast that they got called out after the Oregon game. Okay, the dudes who are 5 stars who are going to be playing on Sunday, you didn't have any expectation they could get to a quarterback, but they did. And for whatever reason, Indiana said, oh, we had success running the ball. Let's throw it. Why not? Let's test them. Let's see if we can get downfield. And when Ohio State started to score, Indiana got a little flustered. But by no means did I think Indiana was not ready for the spotlight. I don't think they were starstruck. I don't think we were shocked at all by what we were seeing from Ohio State. But for those of you that listened and watched the episodes all week long here on Locked On Hoosiers, I made it very clear. You cannot turn the football over. You cannot make mistakes in a game like this. It sounds simple, but it's true. And it came to fruition on Saturday when Indiana had a muffed punt that turned into a touchdown, and you had a fumble off a sack, a strip sack, that Ohio State then went on to score. That was it. That's what got Indiana beat in this game. And for whatever reason, we thought throwing the football, we could get it all back in one possession. And I just don't know where the offensive mindset was in most of that second half. Even in the second quarter is when it really started to go sideways for Indiana. But shout out to the defense. They deserve a ton of love. I know the scoreboard says 38. And again, there's going to be a ton of people who did not watch this game, who turned it off at halftime, who turned it off when Ohio State was up by a couple of scores. They're going to say, wow, what a dominating win by the Buckeyes. They really proved Indiana wrong. Buckeyes really deserve to be in the championship conversation, and that's a really good team. It's a really good team. Well, Howard played well. Running backs played well. Their offensive line played good. And those receivers on the outside are legit. Ibuka and Smith, they're legit. But you can't watch that game and tell me that Ohio State feels good about themselves walking out of this, right? There's no shot that they feel that this was the performance they were looking for against an Indiana team that they have dominated historically. Good for them. You win. You move on, and you're going to beat Michigan's breaks, and you're going to go to the Big Ten championship game and have a chance to compete for a national title. But I think for us here in Bloomington, we've got to be kicking ourselves. We've got to be looking at this as a fully missed opportunity because you collapsed on the road, and it was your own mistakes that allowed that to happen. And then a punt return touchdown. Come on, man. Something like that can't happen. There was a missed hold on that play, but of course it didn't get called. But you put a really good return man in a position to make a play. And that's where the difference is between Ohio State and Indiana in terms of talent at all positions. We've got great players. We do. We've got really good players. But that's where you see the difference. It was on a play like that, and then our offensive line versus their defensive line. The dudes that the Buckeyes had up front on defense, they whooped us on offense the entire game. And in a game like this, top 5 matchup on the road, that's what it comes down to. And Indiana loses 38-15 to Ohio State on the road in Columbus. Question is, where do we go from here? Now what? What does Indiana do moving forward? And more importantly, what does the playoff committee do with Indiana? We'll talk about that coming up next here on the reaction episode of Locked On Hoosiers. Today's bonus episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Game Time. It's my go-to ticketing app. Sports, music, theater, comedy, you name it, they have got it. And it's all the personal or all the great features that they have is the reason that I keep going back. Yeah, the prices are the best, but it's the way that they allow you to get those best prices that makes it just the easiest place to go. They've got Game Time picks, which fluffs or really just shuffles out all the fluff, gets rid of all the tickets you don't want that aren't good for you, and they show you the ones that you want. The best price, the best deal, the best seat, and my favorite part, you could also get a panoramic view from your seat at any venue for any event, so you know exactly what you're going to see before you buy. And they've got a lowest price guarantee, or they're going to credit you 110% of the difference if you're not satisfied. So there really is no reason why you should not be using Game Time, and you can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE. That's Locked On College for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is also brought to you by FanDuel on this bonus episode over the weekend. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet just $5, and you're going to get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So all those big games coming up tomorrow, 49ers and Packers, right? Sunday Night Football, even Monday Night Football, if you want to get in on that. FanDuel is the place that you need to be. So when you get a hunt in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers, this bonus episode, a reaction episode for you on a Saturday afternoon. Appreciate you all being here, whether you're on audio or you're on video. If you're a returning customer, a returning and everydayer, like we say, thank you so much for being here. Really do appreciate it. Hated the circumstances that we're under, but always appreciate your support either on audio or video on YouTube. And if this is your first time here, hopefully you're enjoying the content. And if you do, be sure that you like the video on YouTube, comment your thoughts down below. Final score 38-15 Indiana falls to Ohio State. And then be sure you subscribe to the channel. We just passed 3,500 subscribers, well on our way to 4,000. I think we can hit it before the turn of the new year. So I'd love to hit that, and you can be a big part of that. This podcast is free to you Monday through Friday, all season, all year long. So be sure that you're here and become an everydayer of Locked On Hoosiers. 38-15 final score. Hoosiers fall to the Buckeyes of Ohio State. And the question is immediately, now what? Where do we go from here? And there will be a lot of people who think Indiana should be dumped. They should be left in the cold. They should just be kicked off the cliff and never talked about again this season. I just don't think that should be the case. I really, really don't. Because yes, the final score looks bad, but the game did not reflect that. The final score is not a direct reflection of how the game played out in this particular case. I know that sounds crazy, but if you watched it, it's true. Indiana competed. Indiana fought. And if it didn't have a, classless joke of an act at the end from Ryan Day and Ohio State, the score is a little bit closer. And if Indiana doesn't beat Indiana, they had a really good chance to win this game, because I still believe this was not just a crazy, overmatched, overpowered Ohio State team against Indiana. They just had our number today and had a better performance and executed at a higher level than we did. And so you start looking right at the latest college football playoff rankings. As of this past Tuesday, Indiana was 5. Of course, Ohio State was 2. Indiana was hosting a game. That's probably not going to happen anymore. If we want to make the college football playoff, we're going to have to go somewhere. We're not going to be in the Big Ten championship game. None of that is going to happen. But I still think the Hoosiers are alive here. You take care of business next week against Purdue. You sit back and be one of those teams that tries to take advantage of not playing in a conference championship game. And it depends on what happens around you too. And as we record this, counting down legitimately from 15 seconds, Florida's going on to beat Ole Miss. As we record this live right now, the Gators are about to beat Ole Miss, which is huge for us Indiana people. Ole Miss is going to be out. They're going to be done. That's their 3rd loss on the year. They are not going to make the college football playoff out of the SEC. That is huge. Just went final. Billy Napier, Lane Kiffin shake hands at midfield. So let's give you an update on this, okay? You've got Ole Miss, who is now out of the top 12. You still have an Alabama team that plays Oklahoma coming up tonight as we record this. You also have Notre Dame, who plays Army as of this recording tonight. You still have Penn State on the road at Minnesota coming up tonight as of this recording, and then rivalry weekend coming up next week. There are still multiple possibilities for Indiana to be a playoff team, and one mediocre performance against Ohio State should not take us out of the playoff. I refuse to believe that we're still not one of the best 12 teams in college football. Because when we play our best, teams like Boise State don't want us. Teams like Penn State, I don't think they want us. Miami, I think it'd be a really good game. How about a Tennessee? How about a Notre Dame? How about a Texas? Heck, give me Ohio State again on a neutral site field, and I think we have a good chance to compete and beat any of those teams. I really do. Oregon, I don't know. That's a tough task. But nobody's saying we're trying to win the national championship or supposed to win the national championship. I just think we still deserve a shot. And with all the chaos in college football, I know what the strength of schedule says, and everybody's going to say, oh, Indiana plays a good team one time and they lose. No surprise there. I'm just not buying that narrative. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to buy it, because I've seen this team play their first 10 games and now 11, and I still believe that they're one of the top teams in college football. How could you take a team who all they have done is win up to this point? All they did was win their games and win by an average of 30 points. And you're telling me that a road loss in a top 5 game in Columbus in the rain where you didn't play your best, you're telling me that's enough for you to eliminate a team and their season to be done? I just don't believe that. Now, what will they do? Who knows? They'll do whatever they want to do, whatever makes them the most money, whatever fits their narrative, whatever the biggest logos are, they're going to make the college football playoff. It just determines, or I guess it comes down to, whether they think Indiana deserves to be in there this year or not. But you had a chance. You had a chance to put all that to bed. You had a chance to not even worry about any of what I just talked about. If you could go on the road, play clean football, and beat what I think is a good Ohio State team, but not as good as they've been in the past. Indiana fumbled. Indiana turned it over. Indiana couldn't throw the ball. Indiana couldn't do a whole lot. And they flat out collapse on the road in Columbus. We'll have more of this coming up for you at the start of the week. We'll talk about Indiana, hear what Kurt Cignetti has to say to start the week, and then Tuesday you'll have college football playoff rankings. Don't forget, Indiana basketball is going to be playing down in Atlantis. They've got a really fun matchup with Louisville, possible big matchups as well. We'll have all that for you right here on Locked On Hoosiers, a 5-day-a-week podcast free to you on video via YouTube and audio on any of your podcasting platforms. Be sure you're following, have your notifications turned on, and that you're subscribed to the channel. We're back on Monday for a normal episode, Hoosier fans. So until then, stay safe. I'll talk to you later.